Hello, beautiful souls. Welcome back to my channel. I know that many of you right now are standing in the ache of silence. The kind of silence that feels like punishment, like your heart has been ripped out of your chest by the one person who who once felt like your home. And I see you, right? And today we're going to go straight into one of the hardest initiations on the twin flame journey, what I call the divine masculine discard, our beloved divine masculine discard. And again, guys, this is, I'm talking about the monadic divine masculine, and this is not a surface level talk. This is about the why behind the sudden, cold, almost cruel separation that leaves you wondering how love could turn to indifference overnight. So, we are going to go deep into what's really happening behind the withdrawal, spiritually, psychologically, and energetically, and why what looks like rejection is actually divine redirection. So, if you have ever found yourself crying into silence, questioning your worth, replaying every word in your head, trying to figure out what went wrong, I need you to stay with me until the very end of the video, because by the time we are done, you're not going to see this separation as cruelty anymore. You're going to see it as the exact portal your soul designed for your awakening. So, literally, have you experienced a sudden, painful separation from your beloved divine masculine who felt so cruel, right? What if I told you there's a profound, often misunderstood reason behind the divine masculine discard that feels incredibly cruel? So, in this video, we are diving deep into the hidden dynamics of these seemingly harsh departures, offering insight for those left wondering why, and the silence can be deafening, the pain a constant ache. So if you've been on the receiving end of a divine masculine discard, you know the profound heartbreak of a sudden unexplained separation. But what if this isn't about pain, but a necessary, difficult part of a larger spiritual journey? So join me as we uncover the real reasons, the true reasons behind this cruel separation, and find understanding in this chaos, especially if you're grappling with the sudden agonizing void left by our beloved monadic divine masculine. This video is for you. This isn't just a breakup, it's beyond that. We're going to briefly explore the underlying truths behind this seemingly cruel separation, offering clarity and a path to understanding for anyone navigating this incredibly challenging phase. So, with that, let's delve in, all right? The sudden silence, all right? The first stage of every divine feminine's heartbreak begins not with betrayal but with absence. One day there is conversation, laughter, the familiar rhythm of connection, and the next, nothing. The messages stop, the energy goes quiet, and our beloved monadic divine masculine, who once seemed so present, suddenly vanishes into an impenetrable silence. This is what many call the discard, right? It feels abrupt, cruel, and incomprehend. We can't really comprehend it anymore, especially when the connection had been deep, soulful, and filled with unmistakable signs of destiny. The human mind cannot reconcile how someone who once felt like home can suddenly behave like a stranger. But in truth, what appears as cruelty is the eruption of something sacredly orchestrated. The silence is not merely emotional withdrawal, it is the soul's emergency brake being pulled. When a divine masculine reaches an inner threshold he cannot yet understand or control, our beloved divine masculine instinctively retreats, not because love has vanished, but because the energy has become too pure for his unhealed shadow to stand in. And in this way, the discard is rarely a rejection of us, his beloved monadic divine feminine. It is the rejection of everything within himself that feels unworthy of us. So, beyond the surface, let's unpack the cruelty, right? From a 3D human perspective, the discard looks heartless. No closure, no conversation, sometimes even a cold, cutting dismissal meant to sever all hope. It's easy to label it as emotional cruelty, but in 3D terms, it is, right? But from a higher vantage point, cruelty becomes a mirror for contrast. The universe uses contrast to awaken consciousness. Our divine feminine heart, which once felt seen, loved, and chosen, is suddenly thrust into darkness. This contrast exposes our hidden attachment, fears of abandonment, and unresolved wounds around self worth. Without our beloved divine masculine's withdrawal, those wounds might never have surfaced. The divine masculine's apparent cruelty is not random, it is precision surgery by the soul. Where the ego perceives punishment, the higher self is engineering purification. This is why every twin flame journey begins with idealization and ends temporarily in devastation, because the human layers must shatter for divine love to rebuild our divine masculines into the truth, right? The deeper paradox is that the one who seems to wound us is the one who actually frees us. So our divine masculine becomes the catalyst for our self recognition. Our divine masculine silence screams, "Can you still love yourself when I stop affirming you?" Literally. So that's why, be it cold ghosting or hard ghosting, your DM lashes out at you and blocks you, or literally runs away, you know, digitally or in person, or if literally your divine masculine is like blocking you on social media with or without reason, or it happens after a huge argument, or it all goes back to the energies. See, that's what I'm trying to bring here. Every action that results in the 3D is part of the energy. So for example, if the divine feminine is already in a lot of anxiety and she bumps into a divine masculine, or she orchestrates the bumming into a divine masculine, it's the anxiety that gets transferred over, right? So the divine masculine runs away from that, not from her. And especially when she chases or keeps apologizing or tries to explain, the more he wants to cut her off, because the energies go deeper than what is happening at that moment. But what happens after is what truly matters, because after our divine masculine blocks us, or ghosts us, or deletes us, or tells us that he's never ever ever going to speak to us again, it's what happens after. So I want to go into the divine masculine's internal landscape. To understand the cruel separation, we must enter our divine masculine's inner world, not as a justification, but as a revelation, right? When the divine masculine retreats, it's rarely calculated. Most divine masculines experience an energetic overload. Our connection ignites dormant aspects of his soul, right? Empathy, telepathy, emotional depth that his conditioning has taught him to suppress. So, divine masculine begins to feel everything, our emotions, his own shadows, ancestral pain, and karmic fear. And the magnitude of this awakening can be terrifying for someone who has built his identity on control and logic. This is why his withdrawal is often preceded by moments of deep closeness. He feels safest right before the field collapses, and then instinctively he runs. The act of pulling away is a survival mechanism To us, divine feminines, it can feel cruel, right? But to our divine masculine, it's like breathing after drowning. Spiritually, the divine masculine is being called to fortify his energetic container. Before he can sustain divine love, he must integrate his shadow, the repressed pain, guilt, and fear of failure that lie beneath his egoic armor. So, in psychological terms, he enters an initiatory dark night of the soul. In energetic terms, he undergoes masculine, divine masculine grid calibration, a rewiring of his nervous system to hold the frequency of union. So the discard is not rejection, it's an intermission between false self and true self. Our divine masculine doesn't yet know how to meet us in full consciousness, right? And until he does, his higher self will not allow him to remain within our field, because divine timing protects both souls from premature fusion. So let's look at growth through absence, evolution, right? For monadic divine feminines, what we go through is this phase is brutal. Um, as monadic divine feminines, this phase is extremely brutal, but it's also the making of us. The discard drags us into the void where no external validation can reach us. We must face, you know, it's so important for divine feminines to face, for example, the deepest addiction, the need to be chosen, right? When the illusion collapses, as divine feminines, we discover the truth that we were never abandoned, we were being redirected back to our own essence. This is the stage of spiritual individuation. We begin to separate our identity from the relationship. We learn to hear our own guidance again, to reconnect with our mission, to nurture the parts of ourselves that were waiting beneath longing. So, in energetic terms, the separation triggers soul defragmentation, pieces of our energy that had fused with our divine masculine begins returning to us, and the ache we feel is not emotional, it's the rewiring of our energetic body to stand in sovereignty again. So again, some practical steps which I talk about in my videos over and over again, grounding really, really works. It helps to stabilize our nervous system, like breathing, like literally walking on the grass, journaling, creative expression is like the right way to move into a higher vibration if you can. So the transformation that follows is profound. We move from needing love to embodying it, from waiting for our divine masculine to rescue us to realizing we were always our own sanctuary. And paradoxically, this shift sends the first signal to the universe that we are ready for true union, because we no longer seek completion outside ourselves. So the hidden contract, soul agreements beneath the pain. Every divine masculine discard is pre-written in the soul contract, in our twin flame journey, right? So before incarnation, we agree to meet, ignite each other, and then separate, so that both of us can awaken to higher truth. And that's why our divine masculine, our monadic divine masculine, plays the role of the activator, and we become the alchemist, right? So when our divine masculine withdraws, he fulfills his end of the contract by triggering our remembrance. When we heal, what we do is we fulfill our side by transmuting pain into wisdom. So that's why the meeting and parting are two halves of the same bow. We will not stay together until we remember who we are apart. The cruelty then becomes sacred choreography, it's like a sacred dance. You got to see yourselves as two actors in a divine play written for evolution. That's what's actually happening. And it only feels unfair when seen through human time, through soul time. It is perfect precision. This is why guidance often tells us don't chase, don't beg, don't fix. Because the more we intervene in our divine masculine's process, the more we delay our own. When we honor the separation as initiation, we collapse karmic timelines that have repeated for lifetimes. So, the ego interpretation versus the soul truth. The ego experiences the discard as betrayal. How could he, right? It loops through justification, anger, sacred anger, comparison, and despair. But beneath that turmoil, our soul is whispering, you asked for this awakening. The ego wants closure in words. The soul seeks closure in understanding. It isn't about hearing, I'm sorry. It's about realizing there was never true abandonment, only misaligned vibration. In truth, cruelty is the ego's name for rapid growth. It hurts because expansion always breaks the container it outgrows. Just as a snake sheds its skin, love must shed illusions. So when you stop demanding explanations and start listening to the silence, something miraculous happens. We begin to hear our own higher self. That voice reveals that the discard was never the end, but the initiation into divine neutrality, the place where love no longer oscillates between hope and despair, but simply is. So let's go into the divine masculine silent battle. While the divine feminine is collapsing in grief, right? Our divine masculine is waging war within himself. He too feels the loss, like we do, right? When we are collapsing in grief, our divine masculine also feels the loss. But instead of processing it, he buries it beneath logic, distraction, or new commitments. And this avoidance is not indifference, it is defense. Many divine masculines carry generational imprints of emotional suppression. They were taught that vulnerability equates to weakness, that silence equates to strength. When our divine masculine meets us, his monadic divine feminine, these beliefs are challenged. The heart opens, and with it, the flood of buried pain comes true, right? The retreat allows him to recalibrate. Some turn to work or physical pursuits, others isolate, or category one, you know, karmic relationships tend to act out. So all these are part of the same process, confronting shadow by projection until our divine masculine can face it within. Energetically, the divine masculine is being asked to balance will and surrender. His path is not about emotional expression, but about grounding divine purpose into form. Before he can return, he must learn to hold emotion without being consumed by it, to be both stable and feeling. Thus, his absence is training. The same silence that devastates us is teaching our divine masculine to hear his part of the soul, right? So, the divine feminine's phoenix moment. Every divine feminine eventually reaches a point where pain turns into power. The very wound that broke our heart becomes the portal that births our divinity. So when we finally stop waiting, begging, or proving, something shifts. We no longer vibrate from lack but from sovereignty, right? We begin to serve our mission and collide and move with purpose. So this is the phoenix moment, the rebirth that defines the awakening feminine, where we realize that our divine masculine did not destroy us. He revealed that parts of us that still depended on him for identity had to be released. And by releasing that dependence, we step into union consciousness within ourselves. And as this inner polarity harmonizes, the outer begins to mirror it. Without chasing, without effort, our energy calls the masculine back, not through manipulation but through resonance. Because what left was never love, what left was fear. And when fear dissolves, love finds its way home. So, what is the reunions like true north, right? True reunion is not the return of communication, it's the restoration of alignment. It happens when, you know, both of us have faced our own darkness and learned to anchor divine light within. When reunion occurs after genuine discard, it feels different, calmer, grounded, sacredly ordinary. There is no pedestal, there's no desperation, there is mutual recognition. We survived our own illusion. But every physical reunion might not happen immediately, and not all need to. Some unions stabilize energetically long before it happens in 3D. The purpose was never romantic completion but soul evolution. If and when reunion does occur, it is marked by clear communication without fear of loss, emotional transparency without projection, shared, mission consciousness, and love in the service of creation. Until then, the journey continues as an inward pilgrimage toward God union, right? So you may be asking, so why the cruel separation? Because cruelty was the only language that the unconscious could understand. Gentleness wouldn't have pierced the illusion. Love had to become unbearable to awaken truth. The discard is a divine intervention in disguise. It ends the cycle of conditional love and births unconditional presence. It teaches discernment, who you are when all external love is stripped away. And when you finally see that you never lost him, you only lost illusion, you reclaim your wholeness. And this is when the journey transcends personal story and enters sacred service. You no longer ask, why did he leave me? You begin to ask, what did this teach me about love itself? Like truly, like let's look at like different scenarios, like for example, where the divine masculine, directly lashes out and blocks and like tells the divine feminine he's never ever going to talk to her again. Or indirectly, there's slow ghosting, it happens over the course of years. Or, in the event there's a huge argument and there's a block. In the event there's no argument, there's a block. See, when you look at all these scenarios, it is not the event that happened. It's not the blocking, or it's not the I'm not interested, or I'm never ever going to talk to you, or making you feel like sacred disgust. None of it. What is actually happening is that the triggers are meant to open up both us as divine feminines and our divine masculine, so that we can totally integrate, right? So that's why if you're walking through the aftermath of your divine masculine's discard, know this: you're not broken, you're being recalibrated for divine capacity. This separation is not cruelty, it is correction. The realignment of our soul to its original frequency of love without condition. And as we rise, our divine masculine too will feel the call of the field we now hold steady. The silence is not the end, it's the sound of both of us remembering our way back to the truth. So that's why, guys, if this discourse found you today, it's not an accident. Remember, your soul brought you here because you're ready to stop seeing your divine masculine silence as abandonment and start seeing it as initiation. Remember, we are never discarded. We are only being redirected back to ourselves. And the moment we begin to hold ourselves with the same devotion we once poured into our divine masculine, we'll start to feel the energy of reunion forming, not through words or contact, but through vibration. So take this silence and let it make us sovereign. Let it sculpt us into the version of us that doesn't chase, doesn't back, doesn't collapse, because we are the embodiment of love itself. So if you guys are ready to go deeper into your journey, you can book a private session with me through the link in the description box, and together we can decode the exact energetic phases your connection is, and what is happening, right? So guys, I've got limited spots for the 111 healing conducted on the 1st of November, because the healing is done over video call or remotely if you want. So so the earlier you book, you can get the time slot of your choice. And also, all of my sessions are conducted over Zoom, over video call, one-on-one by me. And so you can ask me all the questions that you want to ask during our session. So with that, until next time, remember, silence is not the absence of love. It's the space where true love learns how to breathe. And I just wanted to say thank you for all of you for building such a supportive community. You guys are truly, truly amazing, And I just have to say, the divine feminine community, it's so beautiful. That's sisterhood. Truly, this is sisterhood. And I'm glad, we are able to hold this space to the highest vibration, like truly. And remember, external teachers like us are meant to awaken the internal teacher within you. Remember, it's all within you, and have a direct conversation with God always. And remember, your higher self is always guiding you. And also remember, all our journeys are very, very unique, especially on the monadic twin flame journey. It's planetary, it's galactic, So really, we are from all over the star systems and galaxies. So really, our journeys are very, very unique, and it cannot be compared. So only take what resonates, and see you all again. All right, love you all, and you guys are so beautiful. I want to thank you all for your beautiful comments. Truly, when I wake up in the morning and I see all your comments, your support, truly, that's what inspires me to create more, to teach more. And really, 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 really proud of all of you, because the twin flame journey, the monadic twin flame journey, there are no words to describe how hard it is. But you know what? One day at a time, one moment at a time, and God is with us always. All praise to God, always. All gratitude to God, always. And remember, our inner teacher is always guiding us, all right? Love you all, and see you all again for the next discourse.